Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Charlotte Morris. I'm a Senior Manager of Partnerships at Curbio. I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about Samson Solutions. Samson Properties has decided to partner up with Curbio to have an in-house concierge solution. So I'm really honored to be here to tell you all things what Curbio is and what this new partnership and the opportunities you have in front of you for your clients can start as of today. So a little background on Curbio. Curbio was started in 2017. We are a DC native company. Our headquarters is in Potomac, Maryland. And really, we started as a company to solve a very big problem that we've all probably experienced in our lives, and that's fixing up the place that we live. Home improvement and construction is a very disjointed industry, so we're here to solve that when it comes down to the transaction. So Curbio is a nationwide company. We're in about 59 markets and growing, but we really pride ourselves in having a local expertise and working with agents and vendors in that area to fix up those homes and get them ready for market. So today we're going to go through all things of what our partnership has, what Curbio does, how it's going to benefit you and your clients today, and really how to get started. And so just a little bit of background here. As we know, the market is shifting. It's incredibly competitive. As agents, you guys are the one recommending updates and repairs to get that home ready for listing. You all know it. You're walking around with your clients at their home and you're pointing out things at the property that may need to get fixed up. And so as we know, the home improvement part, it's really just become virtually a part of your listings, whether you want to be a part of it or not. Home improvement is really important, especially as more and more potential buyers are going into the market wanting turnkey ready properties. They want to be able to move in without having to do a lot of work as soon as they move in themselves. So with the market being as competitive as it is, really, as an agent, you guys have to find ways to remain competitive, be more innovative, and provide more for your clients. So what we're seeing in the industry today is a really big rise in the idea of a concierge service. So a lot of you are probably familiar with that buzzword, the word concierge. Maybe it's because a couple other brokerages offer something in-house. Maybe agents themselves are offering a concierge solution. But what is concierge? At the end of the day, while we know that it's necessary to get a home ready for the market, homeowners don't necessarily want to shell out the cash to do home improvements. So at the end of the day, what a concierge solution is really a financing tool for clients. It will defer the cost of home improvement until the home sells. So it's really that advancement of funds. And when you think about it this way, when you're going around that house and pointing out the things that need to be updated, it's a really uncomfortable conversation sometimes to ask your clients to write a check for, say, thousands of dollars at a time to do those improvements. But with a concierge, being able to wrap it into closing becomes a really attractive, very lucrative offering. And what we're finding is that agents who are offering a concierge and are going up against agents who are not offering a concierge, the agents offering concierge are going to win that listing. And that's because at the end of the day, even if it's not being used, it's great to have in the back pocket to be able to pull out, wrap those home improvement repairs, services, or touch-ups into the closing cost. But there is actually a catch with the traditional concierge service you're hearing out there on the market today. And that is, at the end of the day, who's actually responsible for overseeing the work of these projects? It's going to be you guys, the agents. You're the ones finding vendors, coordinating the work, calling, scheduling, rescheduling, getting estimates for your clients. It becomes a full-time job to be a project manager, an interior designer, an executive assistant, all to make sure that home gets on the market and sells for top dollar. And that's a stress and a hassle that you don't need in your life. So while the advancement of funds for this project is really great, having the stress and hassle added into what you're already doing on a day-by-day basis is time-consuming. And that's really why Curbio was built and why Samson Solutions is now an amazing offer for you guys to have in your back pocket for your clients in every single listing appointment that you have. So with Curbio, Curbio is exclusively focused on the home improvement project for the real estate transaction. And that means Curbio is only working on projects when there is an intent to sell. So at the end of the day, Curbio is a turnkey solution. We're here to partner with agents to provide Curbio as a tool, which means homeowners can never use Curbio on their own. Every homeowner has to be represented by a licensed real estate agent to use Curbio services and to wrap the turnkey services into closing. And that's an edge that other concierge and other vendors just cannot give. So with Curbio being turnkey, that means that every step of the way you're going to be working with a dedicated team member at Curbio to help you get from turnkey ready listing condition in a matter of weeks. And that means that we're really leveraging technology at every point of the way. Whether it's virtual general estimate calls, leveraging Matterports, getting on FaceTimes, you're going to be able to work with us all the way through and leverage technology to get back your time in your day. Meaning you don't need to drive by the property every other day to make sure people showed up. You're going to have the Curbio app portal to check in and check with your project manager on what's happening at the home. And lastly, of course, is our fix first, pay at closing model. That means that it's 100% deferred cost until closing. And there's no gimmicks here. We don't want you to think of us as a debit card or a loan or something with interest or fees attached. There's never going to be a surprise cost at the very end. Think of us as your licensed and insured general contractor. At the end of the day, the cost of using Curbio is built into the project cost. That means that there's fixed pricing proposals. What your client sees and signs a contract for is what they're going to pay at the very end. There's no added on fees or interest. There's also no credit checks or income requirements to get started. At the end of the day, your client is going to pay us back when the home sells. And for clients and agents, that means that there's no liability falling back on you. You don't have to sign any contract with us. There's no fees or cost for you to leverage Curbio. We're just here to be your partner in this. And as I said, there's going to be a dedicated team member every step of the way. So when you're ready to get started, whether you have a listing and a listing agreement already in place or you're gearing up to go into a listing presentation, grab an estimate from our home improvement team. So the first person you're going to interact with is an HIC, and that stands for Home Improvement Consultant. So when you're ready to get an estimate for your listing, you're going to request one from our team and get paired up with a home improvement consultant who's going to work virtually with you to get an estimate back within 1 business day. That's going to be your go-to person from the estimate, the proposal, the Matterport, really finalizing the scope of work all the way until your client signs a contract with us directly. So that home improvement consultant, we've actually hired them very strategically. They're all former real estate agents themselves. So they've either been in the real estate, the construction, or the design industry well before they came to Curbio, which means they're here to consult you and figure out what your client actually needs, what's going to return the most ROI, and really be your guiding point. So those HICs are here to help you get started. And again, that estimate can come back within 1 business day. From there, once a project kicks off, you're going to have a dedicated project manager who's on site and local to the area. So we have project managers who are W-2 salaried employees, which means no longer are the days when you are managing the project yourself. You're going to have a dedicated person who's on the ground, swinging by the property, coordinating with the vendors, helping make sure the materials arrive, and that's going to be your go-to person on the ground. And again, these project managers are salaried employees by Curbio, so they're only working on Curbio projects locally. They're going to be the ones swinging by, coordinating with your homeowners and the clients and making sure people show up and the project is getting to the expected listing date on time. Now, our project managers are overseeing all of the vendors within our network. So when it comes down to vendors, all of the contractors that we use are, again, local to the area. We're always working with local expertise. So if you have vendors that you've worked with faithfully and trustfully for years, feel free to refer them to us. We'd be happy to put them in the network. But once a project kicks off, that project manager that you have working with you on that listing, they're going to be the ones overseeing the vendor network. They're going to grab those vendors in, take bids, coordinate and schedule all of the labor happening, and get that project executed on time. So the vendors will remain independent contractors, but we make sure that anyone who's a part of our invite-only network is licensed, insured, has been in the trade for at least 5 years, and of course has high communication skills. We're going to get all of their documentation in advance. They're going to go through a very high vetting and interview process. And once they've been approved, we're going to pay them directly when they complete their project work. So your client doesn't have to worry about paying any vendors out of pocket or at the very end. We actually pay our vendors above the national average within 7 business days upon completing their project work. So they'll come in, they'll do their job, the project manager will oversee it, and we'll make sure that at the end of the project, each of the vendors are rated so they can continue to be a part of our network afterwards. And lastly, of course, there's other members of our team you can always lean on, whether it's our design team, our production team. We have every member of staff to help pick out materials, figure out the renderings, the floor plans, maybe permit planning. Other members of staff are here to guide you along the way, whether you want to be more hands-on or more hands-off. And so when it comes down to what types of projects Curbio can do, really, when it comes down to it, we're trying to work hand in hand with you and your clients to figure out the goals of selling that particular home. Every home is going to be a little different, and every client is going to be a little different. So whether it's more of a profit-driven renovation or it's just a touch-up project, we're going to figure out that goal and then line up our expertise together. You, as the agent, you know the market, you know your client, and you know what this home could be listed as. We're just here to help with the home improvement side. So once we know the goals of selling, at the end of the day, we're really focused on those smart renovations. The types of renovations that are going to maximize ROI, attract the most buyers, really just sell the home for top dollar as fast as possible. So at the end of the day, we get paid at closing, and we want you to have the highest commission possible. So when it comes down to project work, we're really focusing in on those smart home improvements only. As I said, every home is a little different. So with working with Curbio, that means that there's no project minimums or maximums. If that home just needs a few $100s of work, fantastic. If it needs a few $1,000s of work, no problem at all. We really will just look at the equity available on the home to determine the maximum scope of work that we can do. And from there, we'll really lock in on what the home needs. So starting with that basic listing prep, this is really where the market has been in these last few months, right? Homes are moving fast. You're getting them on the market within a few short weeks. But at the end of the day, every home is going to need a little something, even if it's touch-up paint, repair work, landscaping, you name it, you need to have consistency. And at the end of the day, you're still going to need vendors to come in and help with this. If it's a decluttering job, basic cleaning, getting some materials out of the home so you can really depersonalize the space, it comes down to basic listing prep. So rather than have to find the vendors and pay them out of pocket, you can lean on Curbio to coordinate the work for you and wrap it all into closing. And I'm going to show a few case study examples on the way for the area, and starting with this basic prep that we did in Washington, D.C. today. So this basic listing prep was really geared towards just depersonalizing the home. You can see that we just tried to make it more appealing, brighten up the bathroom space, change out the vanity, the mirrors, paint the colors just more neutral, and of course in the living area, making it more inviting and brightening by adding some new lighting fixtures throughout the living space on the bottom floor. Now this row home in the basic listing prep, Curbio put in $19,000 of work. And again, there was no upfront cost to the client for this. And at the end of the day, the home would have sold for $729,000. We worked with the agent to determine what the as-is value of the home was. And after $19,000 of basic listing prep work, the home sold for $853,000 just 2 weeks later. So that is an increase in profit after paying Curbio back of $105,000. Astounding, very fantastic return and very common in the Curbio world. And moving on to the refresh, I would say this is the second most common project type that we do and really where the market is shifting. So these are the homes that you've seen before that don't necessarily just need a few touch-up jobs, and it doesn't necessarily need a full renovation. It's kind of somewhere in between. So bathroom refreshes, neutralizing the paint, new vanities, reglazing the tile, even kitchen refreshes. I'm sure you've all worked with clients before who have mentioned that they need to gut their kitchen, get a new kitchen done, and then it'll be ready to sell. And that's not always the case. In fact, the most budget-friendly thing you can do is just refresh the kitchen. We can paint the cabinets, add a backsplash, change out the existing countertops, maybe brand new appliances. That refresh can go a really long way. And of course, the landscaping work. So fun fact is that Curbio stands for curb appeal inside and out, which means the exterior of the home is absolutely important for boosting a home's curb appeal. As we know in this day and age, the home buying process almost always begins online, which means that the first thing potential buyers are seeing is photos of the outside of the home, or they're either driving by their property and they're checking out the neighborhood. So it's really important to make sure the exterior of the home is just as inviting as the inside. So when it comes to landscaping work, whether it's power washing, roof repairs, an entirely new roof, fixing up an existing pool, or just basic gardening work, Curbio can help with that refresh. And here's another great example in the Baltimore, Maryland area. So in this kitchen, you can see we really just did a refresh job. It's the same kitchen, just with a splash of paint. So we updated the dark cabinets to a bright white. We installed granite countertops here and took out all of the outdated appliances and replaced them with new appliances. And we also just made the living spaces much more brighter. We replaced the worn out carpet with luxury vinyl tile, which has been really popular. It's a very durable product, good for kids and pets. And finally, a few quick updates that made the bathroom more buyer ready. So again, this refresh, Curbio put in about $38,000 of work, money that the client did not have to find in their savings or take out of the equity in their home. The as-is value of the row home was $150,000. After $38,000 of work, the home sold for $223,500. So again, Curbio gets paid back at closing, which means that homeowner had to put zero effort and zero cash into getting that home turnkey ready and still walked away with a profit of $35,000. And lastly is the remodel. We all know these homes. These are older homes with more nonsensical layouts. They're homes in more disrepair. They don't just need a quick touch-up job. They need a full gut. Homeowners that have been in their home for decades and have little cash to do the jobs. Maybe they voice that they're ready to get out of their homes, but they just don't know where to get started, and they can't sacrifice the equity and the value they've spent years building. And that's really where Curbio comes in to save the day. Curbio being a turnkey solution means that we have not only the cash to take on that job, but we have the labor and the materials to help them with it. So these remodel jobs are usually more extensive. They usually involve permits and plumbing work, electrical work, knocking down walls, really figuring out the most consistent floor plan to use, and we're happy to help with it all. When it comes down to permitting, our production team is going to take care of those permits for you. So we'll get the permit over to the project manager so that you don't have to check in with the city every other day. And so when it comes to remodels, as we know, these basic remodels, these more extensive remodels, I should say, are probably what's going to give us the most dramatic effect. So starting with this Pennsylvania home that we remodeled, the kitchen from the example in the previous slide, we did everything that we possibly could to this house. We redid the kitchen, and we knocked down a wall. We've replaced the electrical. We added an island, new cabinets, new appliances, and of course made the living area much brighter, replacing old, outdated carpet that had been there for years. Now the return on this, similar to the first example, an outstanding $100,000 return on their investment. So the as-is value of that home previously was $230,000. Curbio put in $68,000 of work into that remodel, and the return ended up selling the home for $401,000. So $103,000 in profit for that homeowner who, before Curbio came in, really did feel helpless about what they were able to sell the home for. Now, when it comes to pricing, I already mentioned our pay-at-closing model is super simple. So I want to point out again that there's no fees, there's no interest being accrued, this is not a credit card. It's really just based off of the equity available in the home today. So in terms of getting paid back, we keep it really simple. There's a basic contract signed between us and your client that we get paid back at the closing table. Now, of course, we're not putting any liens or deeds of trust on the property. In fact, we used to, but we removed that contingency, and really it just comes down to that contract. So at the end of the day, we want the home to sell for top dollar and sell for as quick as possible as it can so that we can get paid back. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, what happens if the home doesn't sell or they decide not to sell the property any longer? That's okay. They just owe us the cost of the Curbio renovation. So at the end of the day, we just want to make sure there's enough money available in the equity of their home to cover the cost of the project in case they decide not to sell any longer, or it's been on the market for 12 months. So at that 12-month mark, we just require that they pay us back the cost. Now, of course, usually these are situational, so we're happy to be flexible with them and work with them if the time comes that they decide that they are no longer going to sell their house, but that's not the goal. So when it comes to pricing, I think you're going to find we're very competitive, keeping in mind that Curbio is covering all of the upfront costs, and we're also an all-inclusive solution. That means that what cost you see associated to the project is going to include not only the cost for using Curbio, but the cost of the labor, the cost of installation, of project management, and most importantly, materials. So I'll get to materials in a second, but that cost bundles everything underneath it. So I think you're going to find when you're comparing Curbio to another general contractor local to the area you've used before, we're going to be right there and competitive with them. And of course, we're here to be consistent. We're not going to fluctuate due to seasonality or workload if it's a bigger project versus a small. If you put in an estimate today for a bathroom, you're going to get that same cost estimate 6 months from now, something you can't always find with general contractors in the area. Now, when it comes to materials, something really important to keep in mind is that materials are a part of the cost. And materials these days are hard to find. So when it comes to materials, Curbio keeps a very curated, very tailored catalog of materials that your clients and you are going to select together on day one of project kickoff. So the first thing you do when a project starts is select the materials that go into your home. Curbio has relationships with nationwide manufacturers and suppliers so that we know that items are in stock, on trend, and ready to go. So come install day, we have those items ready to go in the home. And so what's really important is that we're trying to streamline the process. We're not trying to make the material selection too emotional of a process and too time-consuming. So we've really tailored it down, and you're going to work with the project manager and the materials team to select the items that go into your client's house. Now, we have 2 different lines. Whether it's a signature line or a luxury line, we're going to have the types of products that make sense for the home that you are selling. So whether it's a luxury line and more higher-end finishes and appliances, or a more standard line and a signature line home, you can work with us on both. Now let's go ahead and talk about the process. Because when it comes down to it, I know you guys are getting ready to gear up for a listing presentation soon. So the process always begins through the agent. And again, I just want to reiterate, we're here to be your partner in this, which means that a homeowner cannot use Curbio without you. So whether you have a listing appointment coming up or you already won that listing, feel free to get an estimate because the process is free and no obligation. So the first thing you're going to do is head into the Curbio portal, which I'll show you in a second. You're going to request an estimate for our team, and you're going to be paired up with that home improvement consultant who's going to get back to you by email and by phone within just a matter of a few minutes. So once you reach out and go into the portal and request an estimate, you're going to talk to that home improvement consultant, and they just need to know a few pieces of information to help you get that estimate over to your client. They're going to want to know the as-is value of the property, and we're going to lean on you to figure out what that as-is value is as the market expert. You're going to share a general description of what you think that home needs, whether it's painting or landscaping, or it's a big junk removal service or a full kitchen remodel. Just share what you think that home needs based off of your first initial conversations or walkthroughs. And of course, share the available equity or any square footage or photos if you have it. From there, they're able to get you an estimate within 1 business day that you can take back to your client. Keep in mind, these estimates are just a starting point. It's usually going to be a price range based off of what you shared that we think that home could return and what the cost of that project could be. From there, the next step is scheduling a Matterport. So to really leverage and speed up this entire process, we're going to get a Matterport technician out to the property within just a few days to really capture the entire home. We'll go room by room on a virtual walkthrough, analyzing that Matterport, and finalize the scope as a group. So we'll be able to talk about what's really important, what we can probably leave out, and what's going to maximize ROI the most. So once we go through room by room and we figure out the final scope of work, the home improvement consultant is going to present you and your client with a fixed pricing proposal of all the work Curbio is going to do and the cost. When they feel ready, they're going to sign a contract directly with us, and you're going to get paired up with the project manager who's going to take over project execution from there. So that project work can really begin within 7 to 10 days. It's meant to be a fast process, which is why we leverage technology so highly. And so when that project begins, the project manager, as I mentioned, is going to be sharing updates on the portal throughout the project. Now the goal here is that this app really opens up all lines of communication. And the beauty is that you as an agent, you guys already get the portal. Your client will get access to the portal and their project view as soon as they sign that contract. So that means that whether your homeowner is local to the area, they're still in the house, or they have to travel, go to work, this is a second home, or they've already moved, they're going to have peace of mind to be able to see what's happening in their home and when. Everyone's going to be sharing updates, photos, videos, texts. Your project manager is going to be communicating about the contractors, the schedule, the timeline, what's happening with permits, all within the app itself. It's also where materials are selected in your project kickoff. Now within the app, we're also putting in some marketing resources. So of course, it's super important to be able to share and educate your clients on what this value prop is, how Curbio works, what this partnership entails. So we've put in some resources in there so that you can download and share them out at every listing presentation you have. So whether it's listing slides or it's social media posts, feel free to customize them as you seem fit with your headshot, your phone number, your address, and all of your information. Now I'm going to show you the project portal demonstration real quick so you know what to look out for when you log in. Now you guys all have accounts ready to go. You just have to create them. So the link to actually be able to create this account is within the Curbio site on your intranet. So go in there and search for Curbio. You'll find that sign up link so you can create your account and stay logged in. This is going to be your home base for all things Curbio and Samson Solutions. So the start of this is going to be your home page. Oops. Are you able to see it okay? Oh. So once you create your Curbio account, you're going to log in and have a home page here. Again, this is going to be your home base, starting with scheduling the new estimate call. So when you are gearing up to head into that listing presentation or just had a conversation with a client about getting an estimate from Curbio, pop into the Curbio portal and request an estimate here. All you need to do is fill out the listing address, the zip code, phone number, and of course, add any photos or videos if you have them already, but again, not necessary. Once you hit submit, you're going to get an email from that home improvement consultant and a call from them within just a few minutes. So look out for an email and then go ahead and share the important information I already told you about to get that estimate started. That's as-is value, the type of work the home needs, equity available on the home, and of course, any photos, videos, or square footage. So from there, once a project kicks off, this is where you're going to be tracking all things project related. So in your active projects up here on the right, you're going to see all of the current Curbio projects that you have with us. You'll be able to click into them and have full visibility about what's happening on the ground, whether you're there or not. Your project manager is going to be sharing updates along the way. So on the left-hand side of this view, you're going to see all project information, starting with the basics, the timeline, the address, and contact information for all parties involved. So from the project manager to the home improvement consultant you worked with to the materials specialist who helped you pick out the materials, you'll be able to reach out to anyone at any time. Scrolling down a little, you'll find the documents, the Matterport, the proposals, the contracts you signed, any punch list. Everything's going to be loaded in here, so you no longer have to search through your email or Dropbox to find them. And of course, change orders if they're happening on the ground, or permits if we are tracking permitting. Now on this right-hand side, this really comes down to a timeline of all project activity. So starting from the day of kickoff, the very bottom, this side of the portal really serves as a social feed. So you can see from the very beginning of introductions, the schedule for the week, the project manager is going to ask about material selection, as well as, of course, what's happening on the ground at the home. Project progression photos, before and afters, photos of the completed work, all the way until we have that final walkthrough and sign off. So we're here to give you full visibility. You're welcome to ask questions, schedule meetings, swing by the property at any time, or of course, escalate any concerns. If you have questions, concerns about vendors, issues on the ground, voice them to us and your project manager immediately so we can get back on track. So again, I mentioned the resources tab here. This is going to have a slew of marketing resources, flyers, social posts, training videos, and webinars. Feel free to check out here so you can download and send those to your clients. Awesome. And so that is it for the Curbio overview. I want to open it up for some questions if anyone has any questions today, and go ahead and get started. Hi, Melissa.
One online question. So can the sellers stay in the house even when there's quite a big renovation being done, or do they need to move out temporarily?
Great question. I would say a majority of the time homeowners remain in the property. If it is going to be a large project, of course, the project manager is going to be communicating with them, setting expectations, making sure we're avoiding certain parts of the house if they're remaining in there with their family or pets. But we're going to be able to work around them if they're in there. If it is such a large project or they would feel more comfortable staying somewhere else, we can also wrap in temporary housing costs to the cost of the project. So they're welcome to do hotels, short-term apartments, stay with friends, Airbnb, and we can wrap that cost into the cost of the project work to be paid at the end. But most of the time we work with the homeowners who are there. Cool. Awesome. I do want to add one point about staging. Staging is probably the only service Curbio does not do ourselves, and we're happy to work with a stager of choice. So when it comes to staging, if you have a staging opportunity, you want to use your preferred stager, feel free to give us the stager's estimate. We can cover the cost of staging, oversee that project management, and also wrap that into closing. So because staging is the only thing we don't do or have vendors for that we will refer out, it's always by choice and by style. That's the only thing we'll add in a slight admin fee for to cover the upfront costs and overseeing the project management of it. Other than that, staging is a go. Awesome. If there's no other questions, feel free to text us later for questions that you may have or email partnerships@curbio.com, and we're happy to help you get started.